Hey, right, I'm going to show you how to use the dodge and burn tool on advanced PIXLR. So that is the tool over here. So it's a circle with half of it blocked out. Dodge and burn tool is really useful for adding shadows or lightening specific areas of your photo or your image. It's kind of like the black and white version, as it were, of the sponge color tool. So I'm going to talk you through the different settings. So up here, you have the option to either lighten or darken the area of your image, and then you can choose the area that you want to do that with. So I'm going to start with lighten, and I'm going to choose to lighten the shadows specifically. As you can see, I've chosen a stock image that is very much got those light, dark, mid-tones to really kind of emphasize this for you guys. As I've shown you on other tutorials, you still have the option on the size of your brush and also the strength of what you're doing. So I'm just going for a kind of mid-size. I'm going to have my softness sort of 40%, so kind of in between. I'm going to talk about step in a minute. And for strength, we'll leave it at 30 initially, and I'll show you the extremes of this. So I've, like I said, chosen to target shadows specifically. So I'm going to automatically go to those darker areas of my image, and I'm aiming to lighten some of these. So I click and hold my mouse down, and as you drag it across, you can see it's starting to just brighten those areas of my picture. Admittedly, not a perfect line that I've created, but you can go over it multiple times, and you can see that the more you cover one area, the brighter it's going to get. So I would recommend that rather than doing like multiple swipes, you get your brush size to the right size for the area you want to cover as best you can, because otherwise you can get this slightly clunky kind of overlay that I've got here, where I've gone over that same patch twice, but the other section's only had it once. Okay, so you can be a little bit more sophisticated with it. I'm just going to undo that and then show you the opposite. So if I then toggle this to darken instead, and again, targeting still the shadows at this point, and I run my mouse over that section, you can start to see it's gone really black. So again, you can really emphasize key parts of your photograph using this tool, which I think is quite cool. So you can see that bit's gone a lot darker than it was before. The same applies for the midtones and the highlights. It will do exactly the same thing, but just on those specific areas. And I would recommend you are selective over shadows, midtones, or highlights. Don't just click one and wave your mouse over the whole thing. You know, you can be a little bit more advanced than that. So midtones, I'm probably going for this kind of grayer sections over here. And again, if I want to lighten them, I can move my mouse over and it will start to brighten them. This is still only on a strength of 30. If I show you what happens when I whack it up to, say, 100, so I'll just undo that. I change my strength up to 100 and then go over that same area again and hold my mouse down and move it. You can see it's gone a lot brighter. So you've got a lot of control with this tool with regards to what you want to do. I'll do the reverse for you. So if I go to darken, you can see, again, this is on 100, so it's going almost black, which might be an advantage for what you're doing. Equally, I might choose to be a little bit more subtle about that and only do it on a slightly lower strength. So if I move it back down to, say, 7 and do it again, you can see it's made a bit of an impact, but nowhere near as much. Okay, so I'm just going to undo that. I want to talk to you about brushes quickly as well, because you've got some different options under brushes. So I've been doing most of this on quite a fuzzy kind of brush setting. So the softness has been, on about sort of 40%. And you can see you can toggle this so that it becomes really soft, quite kind of pixelated edges to a very harsh, crisp edge. And within that, you've got all of these different kind of visuals to help you to work out what that might look like. If I just show you, so if I have that on the sort of 100% of softness and I put that across here, you can see I've got quite a nice kind of blurred edge. The contrast to that is if I go to the kind of hardest setting, so if I put it all the way back to the other end and then have a go with that one. Oh, it's on still quite a low strength, which is why it's not showing up very well. Hang on, let me change the strength up a little bit so you can see. But there should be a far more defined edge to what I'm doing. Okay, that's better. That shows you what I was on about. So you can see it's a much crisper edge. Okay, so for some things you might want that really sharp distinction between the changes that you're making. For other things, that softness is going to be really important. The last kind of thing I want to show you with regards to the brushes you can play with are these ones at the bottom. So if we have a look. So if you scroll down, you've got different shapes that you can play with. Now, my warning would be to be careful with these. If you don't use them well, they can just look a little bit naff, but they are quite good to kind of play around with. So this is a star. I've got it on a relatively good size, and I've got it quite sharp edges because a star generally is, isn't it? So for this, I'm just going to put the strength all the way up so you can see the extreme of it. We're still on darkening midtones at the moment, but if I then hold my cursor over, you can see it's changed to a star shape. If I click once, it instantly makes that area darker in that specific shape, and I can continue to click on that and it will get darker and darker and darker. Okay. And there were lots of different shapes you can work with, little line dashes, circles, stars, which depending on what you're doing, you might be able to utilize these in different ways. The last setting was just around highlights. So this does exactly the same as what you've been able to do for the midtones and the shadows, but working in those much brighter areas of your image. Let me just change my brush back so that it's not on a star. We'll just go back to a circle. So this is me on the highest strength setting, darkening the highlights. So that's anywhere that's particularly bright, and you can see that's almost obliterated it. If I undo that, but do it on a slightly lower strength and put my brush over, you can see it's just starting to lightly sort of change the image. And you can do the reverse by clicking on lighten. So they're relatively sort of simple options, but actually because of the amount of controls that you have over the brush, the strength, the softness, the shapes, and the specific areas of your image that you're editing, actually this tool can make a massive difference in terms of the subtleties within your photo and how you can edit it to really enhance some of those lighter and darker areas.